every second I'm hurt, they're going to have to pay for it. Every second I'm hurt, someone that cares for me is also hurt.
Welcome to Prism of Torah with Rabbi Saf Aaron Prisman, engaging Divrei Torah, packed with stories and practical insights. Find us wherever you get your podcasts or at prismoftorah.org.
Shalom bracha. In this week's Parsha, Parshas Miketz, I want to share with you a very, very great vote brought down by Rabbi Pinchas Shapiro of Koretz. It's a fundamental yesod, but the way he brings it from our Parsha is unbelievable. We'll start with a couple of questions. We know that Yosef had two kids, the eldest being Menashe and the second eldest being Ephraim. The reason he called Menashe, as the pasuk says, Ki nashani Elokim et kol amali ve'et kol beis avi, which translates to, Hashem made me forget all my hardship and all my father's household. And the main question we want to ask is, what do you mean? It sounds like he's thanking Hashem for helping him forget everything about his father's household. But how can that be? He got so much from there. That was his whole backbone. Everything was given to him from his father. The Torah he learned, how to be a big tzaddik, ben adam lechaveiroi, everything. How can that be? Not only that, the epitome of his father was the image that stayed in his mind, that saved him from Eshet Potiphar, the wife of Potiphar, trying to seduce him. So how can that be that he's thanking Hashem for forgetting? He didn't forget. First of all, he didn't forget. And second of all, why would he thank for such a thing? He wanted to remember the household and his father and everything he represented. And the second question is, the second son was named Ephraim. Why? Which translates to, Hashem made me fruitful in the land of my suffering, which sounds like a very basic concept. Hashem, thank you. Despite the environment I'm in, you made me second in command over here in Egypt. Wow. I'm thankful to that. Hakar Satov, shouldn't that come first? How come the eldest wasn't called Ephraim? So Rav Pinchas Shapiro of Koretz is brought down by him a concept that we're well familiar of, but it's unbelievable how it manifests itself here, and we'll answer both questions. And he says the following: we know what I call as the ripple effect, or better yet, multi-level marketing in Yiddishkeit, which is also known as the pyramid structure. We know that if you affect in a positive way, and it doesn't matter how, by just acting without even knowing that someone's looking at you, or by convincing someone that something's right, your action has a ripple effect, and you are going to get dividends from that, just like the pyramid structure. It's known that the multi-level marketing scheme works in a way that instead of marketing and spending money on marketing, it's a word of mouth, and you affect someone, then he affects someone, but at the end of the day, everyone that got affected from the person you affected, it doesn't matter if it's 5 stages down the road, you're getting a percentage of that. And hence the people that have a big pyramid under them, they get a lot of percentages. And even though they're just sitting and doing nothing or learning, they're still getting money because they're getting a percentage from every sale that is happening from people that they brought into the company, even though it's very indirect. Yiddishkeit is the same thing from a certain perspective. In Olam Haba, you're going to go up there and you're like, what? So many mitzvahs? I didn't do so many mitzvahs. And they're going to tell you, you're right, you didn't do so many mitzvahs. But you affected someone, that he affected someone else. And first of all, that someone that you affected, he did a lot of mitzvahs. And he affected another one, and he did. So you're getting percentages from everything. Logically, it makes sense. You're getting a bigger percentage to the direct person you affected. But even the others, you have a percentage of that. And logically, it makes a lot of sense. Because misvar, if you didn't affect the person that's right underneath you, then there wouldn't have been a whole tree underneath the person underneath you. And hence it makes sense that you have a chelik in that and you have a percentage in that. Chas v'shalom, the opposite is true as well. And if you negatively impacted a person, and it doesn't matter how, by them seeing you doing something or by you telling them to do something bad, at the end of the day, you also have a chelik on that, and unfortunately, you're going to have to atone for those sins, or you're going to have to pay for that. After all that hakdama, now we can understand what's happening over here. Yosef realized this idea. And he cared so much about his brothers. And he knew that he was so hurt by his brothers that he was very, very worried for him. When someone hurts you, there's a whole ripple effect. First of all, also your wife gets affected. And she's hurt. And the kids are hurt. And everyone that cares for you is hurt. And who caused all this? The one person that hurt you directly. He realized that his brothers hurt him. And they were, to a certain degree, in the wrong. And hence, he didn't want them to pay so much for it. So he wanted his suffering to stop. But he knew that deep in his heart, it was hard for him because he really got hurt. And hence, I assume he even davened to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as part of his hishtadlis, to say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please help me, forgive them. And the only way you can really forgive is by forgetting it. It doesn't hurt me anymore. I know they didn't mean bad. I know they totally regret it, or whatever the mechanism is by which you can use to ensure that you don't have anything against them anymore, that will clean the slate. And that is what he was hoping for. And the second he reached that stage, he was so happy because he realized the time is ticking. Every second I'm hurt, they're going to have to pay for it. Every second I'm hurt, someone that cares for me is also hurt. They're going to have to pay for that. I want to stop that. And he was so happy when he reached that stage that he felt like that is the top priority right now. Even though Be'alma usually Hakal Satov is number one, yes. But he first had to say to Hashem, which is also in a sense Hakal Satov, thank you Hashem for helping me, that I totally can feel that I have with 100% full heart forgiven them. And that is what the Pasuk is telling us. When he called the name Menashe, when he's saying that Hashem helped me forget the household, of course that's his backbone. Of course he didn't forget the image of his father and all the Torah and mitzvahs he taught him and the midot tovot he learned from his father. Of course. He was only referring to the pain and suffering he had from the brothers in the household. And that, he thanked Hashem that he was able to totally, with 100% full heart, get that out of his system. And that was top priority. And only afterwards, he said, a general Hakal Satov, Hashem, thank you, despite the environment I'm in, Mitzrayim, which is spitz tuma, extremity of tuma, impurity, still I was able to persevere, and you gave me such a good role over here. And that's why that was only his second son. Rabbi Sachar Fran adds to this and brings down the Meshech Chochma. The Meshech Chochma says that Avi Avois of the Averos of Ben Adam Lechavero, which pretty much means the mother of all interpersonal transgressions, between Adam and Chaveroi, is what happened between the Shvatim, between the brothers of Yosef and Yosef. And the mother of all sins of Ben Adam Lemakoim is Egel HaZahav. And both of these are referenced in the high holidays. When we say, Ki ata salchan leYisrael, you forgive Klal Yisrael for the sins they did between us and Hashem, the classic one being Egel HaZahav, and umachalan leshiftei Yeshurun, and you forgive for the tribes of Yeshurun, which are the sins between man and man, which is the main one represented by the sin of the Shvatim when they sold Yosef. Yosef wanted this pain that he has to already stop so they won't have excessive punishment because he cared for them. It wasn't a selfish thing, I don't want to be in pain. He knew that his pain had a ripple effect that will lead to not good things happening to the brothers, and he cared for them, and hence he thanked Hashem once he was able to totally forgive them. Just to summarize, Yosef HaTzadik knew that his brothers inflicted great pain on him. The longer that he was in pain and people around him was in pain because they cared for him, the greater the price his brothers were going to pay. And we pay for it till today. And he did not want that to happen. He wanted to minimize as much as possible. And he knew that in his heart, it was hard for him. And hence, once he finally, HaKadosh Baruch Hu helped him to uproot that from his heart, and he was totally okay with them, as we see later on, because he tried to help them atone for their sins, and that's why he didn't tell them who he was until he realized that they did 100% tshuva. He thanked HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that answers both the questions we started off with, because that's why his main objective was to get that pain and suffering out of his hand and out of his heart. And when he was able to do that in the best way possible, 100%, he thanked Hashem. That was the top priority, and that's why that was the first kid. And that is exactly what he's thanking Hashem, not for forgetting everything that happened in the household, but the suffering and pain that was still in his heart till that moment. So what can we learn from this? We can learn from this that we have to, anytime someone pained us, we should do our best to ladun lekaf zchut and try to get that pain out of our hearts, because that, if we don't do that, that's a barrier of achdus. That's a mechitza for achdus, and achdus creates shleimus, and shleimus, shalom, is shalom between us and the fellow Jews, and that is the vessel of which we know Chazal tell us that Hashem's bracha can be bestowed upon us. And hence, everyone should do their best to totally forgive with a full heart, and if it's hard for them, they should daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to help them reach that point. I know I have two friends that bemet, unfortunately, they got into a big quarrel, you should say, and I really want to try to make peace between them. And I can't believe that one is not willing to forgive the other. But then again, it could be that it's because he knows in his heart it'll be fake. And hence, Mirza Hashem, I'm going to try to convince him it's even in his best personal interest, because we want shalom in the world. And also, it's not good for people to be pained because of you. Because as we see, Yosef really didn't want that to happen because he cared about every yid. And when you care about every yid, that in itself will help you get to the point where you forgive with a full heart. Yiratzon will be able to do that, and by that will create the vessel where the bracha from HaKadosh Baruch Hu can be bestowed upon us, which is shalom.
This concludes another episode of the Prism of Torah. Thank you for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something valuable. If you did, please subscribe to the podcast and give a 5-star rating. You can also find this podcast wherever you get your podcasts or our own website, prismoftorah.com, where we have a full archive of all our past episodes. We would like to thank Yona Vefa for the recording equipment and Eli Podcast Productions for handling all our post-podcast productions. Join us next week for another enlightening conversation on the Prism of Torah.